He had this three-piece suit. And then you know how they had those watches that go over like that? In the old days, pocket watch. He had one of those, maybe six. And he would take the bus to go into the city. That was Grandpa. He was very smart, but he had asthma. That was a big problem with him. That's what he died of. He died of asthma. And he used to speak probably the Creole language because he came from Mauritius. But I'll tell you more of that just now. Grandma, she was a dear woman, absolutely wonderful. She had a wonderful heart, and of course her sons meant everything to her. Not that her daughters didn't, but in those days the mothers always made a big thing of their sons. And if the son had an argument with the wife, the son was always right. And of course the poor wives didn't like that. But anyway, that was Ma. We called her Ma. Now Ma wore a sari. And of course she was lucky because wherever we lived there was always a community. Yes, there is another. Now you go and check, you might just be able to see another Barbeau reunion. And they're quite a big gathering. But I'm not sure. I did not say this. But anyway, they're a white family, okay, in Canada, in the USA. And so we've got another family there. So that's proof that they went to the USA and they went to Canada. Anyway, going back to Mauritius, Grandpa went to Mauritius, and he must have gone with other brothers there as well, because Geraldine and Stephen, where are you? Geraldine and Stephen? Yes, Geraldine and Stephen went to Mauritius, and I think they followed it up, and they found a Barbeau connection there, and we know that there were a few brothers that ended up in Mauritius. That's right. The one that they met was a commissioner of police, and he was retired. So, in Tamarin, if you're going to Mauritius. Anyway, from Mauritius, Grandpa decided to come to Natal, well, South Africa, Natal. And I'm not sure whether he developed any skills in the sugar industry while he was in Mauritius. But from what I gather, he was employed by the in the sugar industry, and at one point he was like an overseer, and he would he would go on horseback with other workers as well, and they would go around on the plantation, and they would supervise the workers. And what had happened, Ma, on the other hand, we called her Ma, she came from India on a ship as, you know, they got these indentured laborers from India that came through. And Ma came as a young girl. I don't think she was born in South Africa. I think she was born in India. I'll tell you why. She often told us stories, because remember, Ma was with us until she died, and so was Grandpa. Ma said that they used to carry water from the river on their heads and bring it home. And she'd always say, "Filia, Ma, filia." And the head was very hard because of the weight of the water that she used to carry and bring home. So Ma came as one of those, probably her family, with her family, as an indentured labourer to South Africa. And I think it was while she was working with her family on the farms, sugar plantations, that Grandpa spotted her. And the rest is history.
Yeah, we are.
So that's my story, and I'm going to hand over to the next person, unless someone's got to add something to it. It's entirely up to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eileen. That was some serious history there. Now we're going to hand over. We're going to spend 5 minutes each on each sibling. So we've identified persons in each family to speak 5 minutes about their sibling and about growing up with them, etc. And we're going to, of their father or their mother. We're going to start with the eldest, and hopefully we're going to get the order correctly as we go along. We'll be guided with everybody else.
Jerry and Eileen.
Yeah, we'll be guided with Jerry and Eileen. So we'll start off with Jerry, and he's going to talk on behalf of Uncle Ernest.
Now there's Ernest Part 1 and Ernest Part 2. I'm going to speak about Ernest Part 1. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, we're back in the movies, man. Anyway, I just want to add my thanks to everybody that's come and made the effort despite the weather. Unfortunately, we just have to rough it out a little bit, just for a little while. I think it'll be worth it just to be together. Ernest Barbeau was a cabinet maker, and the others will tell you about the other brothers who were also cabinet makers. And he was married to Jane. If you look at some of the pictures, you'll see Jane. And there were 7 children in our family, Eileen being the eldest. And Keith is here today. And strangely enough, it's one of the very few occasions where all 7 of us are together at the same place. And I'm grateful for that. The youngest is Keith. After Eileen, after me, came Rosie, and they're all familiar with Rosie. Can you put your, Patty, sorry, where's Patty? Can she just put her hand up? I think everybody knows where's Patty. There's Patty seated over there. And then Rosine, I think everybody knows Rosine. There's Rosine on that side. And then came Rita. There's Rita there. There's Stephen. Where's Stephen? Stephen's out there. That's Stephen. You all know Stephen. And there's Keith standing right there at the back. All right, he's in Cape Town. Unfortunately, he's left his wife and 2 children behind. Then moving up the ladder backwards again, it's Rita. She has 2 children, and they live in Australia. And coming up to Rosine. Rosine has 4 boys, and there are, I'm not sure about, I think it's 6 grandchildren now. And then up the ladder, we come to Rose. I mentioned Rosie. Who did I leave out now? Stephen has 2 children. One of them is here. I think that's Lucille, and is Lucille, yeah. And that's Stephen's wife, Geraldine. She's standing already. I think you all know Geraldine. That's Stephen's wife. And then there's Rita's husband, Kenny. Where's Kenny?
Yes, Kenny. No, I saw him just now.
Daisy behind you.
Oh, there's Kenny right at the back there. Okay. Then coming back to me, I have 2 daughters, Alicia and Nolene. And Nolene is here. Nolene, can you just stand so they all can see you? Where's Nolene? Oh, okay. And Gregory, her husband, is he here? Is he? Oh, they also gone there. All right. So there's Nolene and Gregory, and they have 1 child, Nathan. I think it's with him at the moment. And then there's Eileen. Eileen has a son who's married and living in Australia as well. Unfortunately, they couldn't be with us, like Eileen's husband, David. Okay, I think that about covers the Ernest Part 1 family. I'm going to hand over now to...
Part 2.
I don't know whether it's Aubrey or is it Molly? Or Malcolm. Oh, Malcolm's the youngest on that side.
Hello everybody. My name is Malcolm and I'm part 2 of the Ernest family.
That's a lovely one.
The part 2 family, we are 8 siblings, which comprises of 3 sisters and 5 brothers. We have 23 nieces and nephews, and we have 27 great-grandchildren to my dad.
Wow.
So you can see the generation of the Barbeau is quite strong, eh? Just to let you know, my elder sister was Sister Joyce. She is late, and she has 3 children, and she has her husband is Danny, and they have 6 grandchildren. Second is my sister, my brother Stephen. He's the eldest, and he has 4 children, and they have 8 grandchildren. And then there's my sister Prema, who has 2 boys. One boy is Lionel, he's in Australia, and the other Leon is here. He has two children, a boy and a girl, and Lionel has a boy and a girl who's in Australia. And then we have my sister Molly. She has two children, Inesh and Andrew. Andrew has a daughter, and Inesh has two children, a boy and a girl. And then we have my brother Aubrey, who has Aubrey. Who are you? Yeah. That's Aubrey. He has two girls, and he has two grandchildren. And then we have my brother Norman. That's Norman. He has two children, Treasy and Carl. They both reside. One is in PE and one's in one in Cape Town, one PE. And anyone else I forget besides myself? Then it's me. I have two boys. It's Kyle and Talon, and my wife Glenda is here as well. And that's my family. I just want to say to Eileen, I understand now where the roots come from of compassion, love, and with our grandparents. We share the same thing in our siblings, and now I understand how that comes naturally to my brothers and sisters, to share, to give, and to be forgiving. Thank you very much.
Wow, that makes me feel quite emotional. That's so true, eh? That strong sense of family. We see it today. Thanks for sharing, guys. I'm going to introduce you to Audrey, who's going to give us a brief history of their family, and as well as Uncle Edmund, who follows after. And Audrey and them spent the most time with Uncle Edmund, unless she'd like Leslie to get involved there as well, but you can hand over.
I'm just going to read this if you don't mind. Just to say something about Uncle Edmund. He was highly respected amongst family, friends, and fellow missionaries. He spent 59 years in the ministry, preaching the gospel in many parts of the country. Despite having such a serious disposition, he was actually quite a tease and had a way of getting information out of you in a very subtle manner. He was concerned about various family members and wanted to know how each one was getting on. There was no cell phones back then, and letter writing was painful, especially if he was in Zimbabwe, then known as Rhodesia. Every year my mom would bake a fruit cake, make fudge and coconut ice, and send it by train to Rhodesia for his birthday. He would then share it with folks over there. He was always trying new remedies, his various ailments, and it was my job to make salads for him. Grated carrots, chopped nuts, olive oil. What a business! Uncle Edmund was very stockily built, don't know if you can remember him, and had kind of short legs. And we often went to the beach where we would race each other. My dad, Uncle Edmund, and Uncle Billy Ford, who was also in the missionary work, competed, and Uncle Edmund bragged that he was the fastest, and he was. Never mind the heart problems. Both Stephen and James, Margie, Dan and I were glad for the privilege to have had him in our homes. The latter part of his life, we cared for him until he passed away peacefully in hospital at the age of 88. Dear Uncle Edmund, fondly remembered and appreciated by many. Just a short synopsis of my dad. Edgar Barbeau was first married to Violet and had two daughters, Margaret and Supreme. Violet died in 1945 at the age of 41 years. Margie was only 11 or 12 and Cece 9 at the time. Edgar then realized that he needed some help to rear these two little girls. So he traveled off to Cape Town, where he met Kelly, got married in 1946 and had two daughters, Edna and Audrey, that's me. He was an amazing, talented artisan, very creative, designed and made lots of furniture, always trying something new from money boxes, trays to built-in cupboards for kitchens and bedrooms. He was a loving, caring man, not only for his immediate family, but for others too, and his home was open to everyone. Ed and I often slept on the floor in the lounge when visitors came. He had a quirky sense of humor and was at times quite awful with Auntie Ruth's children. He told the story over and over. He always added another bit, so the story always changed. When he went fishing, the size of the fish was changed dramatically. He was very fond of young people and wanted them to have a good education and get somewhere in life. Dad couldn't sing, but he loved music. He loved to take us to listen to the Scottish bands when they played in the botanical gardens. We would go by bus to see the navy boats when they were in the docks. He loved traveling, and often, nearly finished, eh? And often our car would be jam-packed, taking Auntie Ruth and children as well, only to break down along the way. Dad was a real chancer, and whenever Mom would be concerned that we were lost, he would just calmly say, "But this road must come up somewhere, even if the petrol was low." He bought a black car, which we called the old Tory. You remember that, Jess? Remember that? And one day we went to visit Ma and Auntie Jane and family in Manor. We lived in Botanic Avenue at that time, and by golly, somewhere in the rear road, the car stalled and refused to move. So we had to push it back home. End of outing. Those were happy days, fun filled with lots of adventure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Audrey, and thank you for making that long drive from Cape Town by car to be here today. That is really awesome. Now, on carrying on that, we're going to introduce Des to talk on behalf of Uncle Edward's family.
For those of you who don't know, my dad and Audrey's dad, well, they were the Barbeaus, but Audrey's mum and my mum were sisters. So you couldn't get closer than that. So, of course, we grew up very close, and so did our parents. Through our Uncle Edgar going to fetch Auntie Kelly from Cape Town, I think Edward followed up and went for Ruth. So he brought Ruth from Cape Town as well. I believe that my father was the best father in the whole world. Oh, you know, my father, I don't think you've ever met a calmer person. He had a calm demeanor. Nothing fazed my father. Asked me, and he was quietly spoken. I can't tell you where Mervyn, Jill, and I came from. Andre is the only one that I think has some of Edward. He's calmer and he doesn't speak and carry on as loud and get excitable like us. Anyway, Dad was very soft, and we used to always try to go through him to get our way, and of course Mum was the disciplinarian, so we didn't get away with that. She put us right in our box immediately. My father smiled all the time. He had the most beautiful dimples that none of us can show you, unfortunately. Only person that inherited that was Eugene Tickle. So Laurel and all of you, thank my father for those dimples. Somehow we missed the boats. I don't know how come. Anyway, my father was an excellent cabinet maker as well, like the other brothers. They seem to have had a common interest there when it came to wood. Loved to be creating stuff. They worked for McNamee's. I believe that the bedroom suite that my mum and dad had, pure imbuya, is what my father worked on. So that's how far it comes. He eventually left there because I think to look for better prospects, he went into the building trade where he was then a carpenter. Mervyn decided that he wants to leave school and he was going to look for this job and that job, and my father said, "Get your bag ready, tomorrow you're starting with me." So Mervyn had to be an appy under my father, and he'll tell you how particular and how my father only believed in excellent finishes. You know, Howard College, when you go there, you go into that big auditorium, Mervyn always says, "This is where Dad hung the doors, this is what Dad did." And you know, my mum used to say there were many a day where the money was so low, he walked from home to Howard College to work. So, you know, that's how they were. He also loved gardening. Immediately we moved into Pedersen Road, he planted mango trees, pear trees, guava trees, you name it, we had it. And of course, as we grew, we enjoyed all the fruits, and of course, shared it with everyone else. We also like to do flower gardening. Well, you'll hear about Uncle Mitchell. Uncle Mitchell was tops. They won the garden competition every year. They were very into gardening. So they had green fingers. Even the neighbors knew them, you know, everybody loved my dad. And of course, you just have to come there and say, well, can you borrow a hammer, can you borrow a nail? Dad had it all. And of course, please come and fix my door, and he was gone. My mother used to say, never mind, my doors are hanging, he's there fixing those doors over there. But that was just the kind of guy he was, you know, always helpful. And he loved children. Everybody really and truly respected him. You know, Uncle Mitchell, of course, is up the road. We in Peterson Road, you just walk up the road, and Uncle Mitchell stayed there. So as a result, him and Dad were very close. But they were just too good, eh? I used to run, I was still very small, I used to go up and down to visit Auntie Iris, and Uncle Mitchell will say to me, go and tell your dad to please come up with a hammer and some nails. This door of this cupboard is loose. So of course I went down, told Dad, bring Uncle Mitchell wants a hammer and some nails, there's a door that's loose. And of course that was the password when they got there, that was their time to pour a shot. Eventually my mum caught on, because it became a screwdriver and a this and a that, and she said, don't come and tell me you're going up there to have a drink. So I don't know who does those tricks. I'm sure there's still some in the family. But that's how cute they were, I tell you. So it was really good. And of course, the truth be told, my dad loved to punt. He used to like to take his bets. There's quite a few of them in the family that did that. And of course, in those days, you went to the race course to take your bets. So if Dad came home with Woolworths Pick-a-Mix sweets, we knew he made something. But I can tell you it was more often than not that we got salted nuts. And we knew that was the day he didn't make anything. So that's just the way it was. And of course, when he went to the course, it was his time to meet his brothers. They used to also go there, so I think it was more about that fun of getting together and outing, you know, just to be out together. My father never read much as far as books are concerned, but it was amazing how every day our job was to go to the shop. We all went down the line. We all had our turns. It was go to the shop for bread, milk, and the newspaper. Without fail, and the newspaper. Every day, when he came in from work, he sat down, he read the newspaper because he wanted to know what was going on all over in the world. So we only 4 children. That's myself, the eldest, Mervyn, that was here, unfortunately had to leave. He's going to a wedding. He's hoping to come back. Followed by Jill and Andre that's sitting there. And of course, I told you some have branches, some have twigs. We only got twigs, I think, because Andre has 2 children and I have 2 children. He has 1 granddaughter that's on his lap. And I have a grandson. I also have 2 children, but they both live in London. And my husband has passed on. So I'm home alone 1. You know the movies? Not 2 or 3, 1. But anyway, that's it about Edward.
Okay, so we're trying to get the order right. Who's the next one?
I think it's Mitchell.
After Uncle Edward was an Uncle Mitchell. Is that right?
I know he was the first one to get married.
Oh, okay. I think it was Uncle Mitchell. So, representative Uncle Mitchell is Marcel today. Marcel, can we pass this over to you?
Also got lots of stories.
He's got lots of stories.
Be patient.
Hi everybody. Hi. I'm your Uncle Marcel or your cousin Marcel. Right? Okay. I don't know, I got this family a little bit mixed up. Because I know something different about the family and about Ma and about Pa than what Eileen said, so I'm not sure.
I'd be interested to hear your story.
I believe he was a baker because we used to get cakes from him when we were young. He was working in the bakery. And the other story is Ma worked on the farm of Pa's family. I don't know how true this is now. I might be mixed up, but this is the story I grew up knowing all my life. And Pa fell in love with Ma while she was working for him. And because he married Ma, he was disowned by his family, which put him on one side. That's why we non-whites and those are gone as whites today. That's the story I grew up knowing all my life. I don't know if I'm confused with this or anything. I'm just saying that is part of my life that I'm a little confused with what I heard now. Anyway, I'll speak about my father. My father, Mitchell, was a very hard man. He gave us a hard time. We were 7 in a family, 4 brothers, 3 girls, which is 1 girl here. 1 is Australia, and 2 in Australia. The eldest and the youngest is in Australia, and she comes after me. So my eldest brother at the moment is late, and the second eldest is my sister Yvonne in Australia. Oh, sorry. I thought I was talking loud enough. All right. Anyway, and then came Arthur. Arthur is not with us because he's in hospital at the moment with a heart attack he had, and his family is not here also. And then came Eugene, which is his eldest daughter there, and husband Frederick that side, and the son Gerard, somewhere around there. And his family, that's Eugene's children and grandchildren. And then it's me, my wife at the back of me here, Darren and Keegan, the one that's shaking hands here now. That's my youngest son and the eldest son. And then of course, as I say, I have a lot of stories, they say. But my stories is not really for you all. But yes, we were brought up in Sydenham, not far from Durban, just up the road. And her story confuses me too a little bit, because when my father used to say, Edward, come up for an eye opener, Uncle Edward used to say, Auntie Ruth, Mitchell wants a screw with a tin opener. So they go in a tin opener to go up used for the eye opener.
They must have tried
they all got different stories. But that's part of the stories that we grew up with. And my father was, yes, a very good gardener, which he left with me. He strained me terribly because I was the only one that did the garden. Other brothers didn't have no duties in the garden. I had to do it all with him. So, and then of course, Odette's father, Eugene, was called Running Bear. That was his name given to him by us because every time there was a time for hiding from Eugene, Eugene jumped out the window and he was gone. Yeah. So he was named Running Bear. He ran away. So this is the life. Because my father was very strict. He would, as soon as he said he's going to give you hiding, go to the room. I'm going to go and fetch the switch. That which was a peachy stick, cut and all the branches off, and put those knots on, and you thresh the skin clear. He was a very fair man. Because when me and Eugene used to have fights, say, all right, put the boxing gloves on, and come on, don't you fight now, right here? All right, now you know you can't hit him, you don't start again. You understand? That's how it works. But you leave it until you can see you can't take it no more. They just stop you. That was his idea of family. He said, I don't want you all fighting with one another. You'll fight together against people that want to hit you. Don't leave your brother standing and come home and tell me they're hitting him. You were there, what you doing? You understand? That was his attitude. You stay there and get the hiding with him. That was it. So you couldn't go home and tell my dad, or the hitting Eugene or the hitting Arthur, because you had to stay and get the hiding with him. That's the kind of life. We all grew up, and we were very, very naughty. I'm not going to say we were innocent. We still are, some of us. Right? We were very, very naughty.
The mic closer.
I ran away from home at the age of 13. They all looked for me because they couldn't find me for days. And I was in the bay fishing. every day. I go to the bay and I fish. I wasn't going to school, I wasn't going anywhere. And then the teacher came home with a letter. He said, well, hey, this child is not coming to school. And that's how my family found out. After 3 months, I wasn't at school. Every day I'm going to fish. One of my uncles, before leaving for Australia, came to give me all his rods. So he said, I'm a very good fisherman. You can keep my rods and fish for me. But that's how I ended up fishing. And I still enjoy it now. But anyway,
Thanks,
this is part
Marcel.
of my family that I know. And I can remember going to Ma in Cater Manor in those days. I can remember Audrey and them in Botanical Avenue and in Bailey Avenue. We used to visit in those days. But when Ma died, the family broke up then, you know. There was no more visiting. And the brothers didn't even visit that much too. And I'd just like to say, I'm very glad to meet all of you here today, because I wouldn't have said I'd known half of you, because I don't. I still don't know half of you as you're standing, because I don't know the grandchildren or the children. I know all the sisters and the first cousins in that way. Now I know the both families too, so I don't know. I didn't know that too one time. I had to go to a funeral to find out that there was two families that side. And I said, God, man. And they talk about things that about half, what do you call those half snaps and all without the full dress involved. Those snaps and all, and you don't see, you know, that they were hiding things. But everybody had the skeleton, and we didn't know the skeleton was in the cupboard. But anyway, I went to Uncle George's funeral and I found out in that late age of my, I must have been a teenager then. So, but I grew up and I played football with a cousin that I didn't know was my cousin.
The time.
So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, because my wife is already shouting at me. So, she doesn't like me to talk.
Thank you, Marcel. You're going to do the next one. Is Florence here for Nzimari? Is there anybody else that can talk for on behalf of Nzimari for a few minutes?
I got a few things here.
Okay, maybe Des will just say a few things.
Well, I got a few things from Flo, but anyway, she's supposed to be here. I don't know what's happened. But a bit of,
There's Priscilla's here, but
no, that's Priscilla, that's Auntie Dolly's daughter. We're talking about Auntie Maury. Okay, and all I know is that Auntie Maury was the eldest girl, of the girls. And Auntie Maury and Uncle George lived in Malvern. And you know, Auntie Maury's home was the place where we had all our family celebrations, if I remember correctly. We often went to Malvern to celebrate. I remember Uncle Ernest's birthday there. What was it, his 60th or 70th?
Yes,
60th, yeah, I remember. You know, and Uncle Henry and Auntie Margaret's wedding was at Auntie Maury's place. So they had a very big yard, a very big house, and they had an orchard where we enjoyed ourselves, climbing trees, eating mangoes and lychees till we were full and sick. But that's how it was with them. Auntie Maury was also an excellent cook. I remember her, that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody cook on an open fire. And that's what she did. She used to cook big pots of food on the fire for family functions kind of thing. I think that's about it.
yeah. We'll just give Priscilla some time to gather herself while we'll ask Michael to talk on behalf of Uncle George, please.
That's it.
I want to keep it simple, short and simple. Eh?
Yeah, okay, please.
Eileen, thank you very much. You just made me realize something. When you spoke about our grandfather and the way he dressed, being so neat, it takes me and look at all my father, Uncle George, and all the brothers, the way they dress so neatly. Uncle George wasn't married, he never married, but he was very close to my father. And he named me, Michael, and he eventually came and lived with us. He visited often, eventually came and lived with us. And the three of us used to always be together, myself, Uncle George, and my father. Things that I remember about Uncle George is that he always had his hat on. His pants would always be neatly dressed. He was a very good tailor, and he taught me how to do tailoring. But it wasn't easy because he was a cheeky man, very, very cheeky and hard. But as a young man, I must have been in my teens when he taught me how to do tailoring, and that was to my benefit because we were very poor back in the day, and learning how to do tailoring was a good thing for me because I made extra money. People would come in with packets and I would alter clothes and do pants and do all that. There was a lot of extra income that came my way. Something about Uncle George is that I don't know how it is possible to have a cup of tea with 1 1/3 of sugar. 1 1/3 of sugar. His tea had to be boiling hot, and I had to make his tea every single night. That was my job. He showed me how to use the teaspoon. The teaspoon had to be leveled. And you put that teaspoon into the cup. And then you tip your teaspoon, just a tip, and that's your 1/3. The tip is the 1/3. So it's just that. It cannot be any more than that. A flat teaspoon and 1/3. And we would sit in the room with our Provita and our tea, and him, my father, and myself. Now, also, Eileen, the others must help me over here. I don't know how it worked out, but my father and my uncle, they should have a nightcap with the blue top, and they should have a nightcap. And when I came home and I was to come back from church, my uncle would say to me, "I know you're drinking outside there. Have a shot with us." I said, "Uncle George, hey, I can't do that. I can't do that." But the beauty part of the Barbeau men is that, and I think the Barbeau men got this. All the Barbeau men that are here, I'm sure you will carry out the same thing, is the way we dress. The way we dress and the shoes that we wear. Up till I remember Uncle George very, very fussy. His shoes had to be a barker or a hush puppy, and he would buy it from Cuthbert's.
Yes.
And his food that he would eat had to come from Woolworths. He'd only buy his food from Woolworths. Only Woolworths food, and barkers and hush puppies. He taught me how to iron, and it became my passion. My family took advantage of that because it made me do all the ironing in the house.
Up till today?
Up until today, I still do all the ironing because I love to iron. And the pants had to be right, the shirt had to be right. Everything had to be so particular. And the last thing that I'd like to say is that Uncle George, I was very privileged in that I had two fathers.
Yes.
I had my father and Uncle George, and both these guys were so close to me that in the end, when I was in matric, Uncle George was very sick. He got sick in the end, and I asked him, "Uncle George, I need a suit for my matric farewell." And he said, "Mike, I can't make the suit for you, but I'm gonna take it to my friend, a tailor." And he had this material from England, which was a brown material with a pinstripe. And he took this material and he said, he took it to the tailor, and then about a week later or two, he came back to me and he was very angry. He says, "Michael, I don't understand. This tailor says he can't make the suit from this material because there's not enough material." And he said, "I'm going to do it." And in that sick body, he started taking the scissors and he started cutting. He started cutting the material, and I watched him cut the material, measure me, make the suit. He completed the suit. When he completed the suit, and he went and he bought me a shirt which is called, and I think the men might know, Christian Dior Monchier.
Yes.
Christian Dior Monchier, in that time, in 1989, was a very expensive shirt. It's not a cheap shirt. He bought the shirt, he bought the tie, he had the suit, he bought the shoes for me. The complete outfit. Not knowing, just before my matric farewell, the suit was made, and the Friday, he said to me, "Go to Joburg." There was a holiday. "Go to Joburg and spend." I said, "No, why must I go to Joburg?" He says, "No, I want you to put the suit on for me." And that's what I said, but why must I put the suit on now? Because the matric fair was still far away. He says, no, put the suit on. So I put the suit on, and I was looking, I'm looking tops. Looking tops. I don't think you were gonna get a handsome guy, more handsome guy than that. This guy was top. Well, the Barbeau men are handsome guys. You can't beat that. All right. And this is what he said to me when I was fully dressed. Hey, Michael, you're looking tops. You're looking good. And I couldn't understand. Took the suit off and left for Joburg. I was in Joburg for the night. And the next morning they called me to say he passed away. So, thanks.
Okay, we're just going to add on because Uncle George had Michael at the end there, but he had Uncle Ernest with Rita and Eileen in the beginning. So we're going to ask Rita just to talk a little bit of Uncle George from that side quickly. You would have to come a little bit forward here because it can't go right to that end.
Oh, sorry.
Now they were talking serious things. Now this is the funny side. Okay? Now Uncle George lived with us. He never called me by my name. It was always my niece. My niece, come here. My niece do this, my niece do, and we always ran because like Michael, we had 3 dads. We had Dad, we had Uncle Albert and Uncle George. So brought me with my so-called boyfriend outside the house. And look, I don't think we were kissing that I can remember, but we were standing outside the house. I'm trying to wash it down because my husband's here. So I was standing outside the house and Uncle George, because we had an outside toilet, and Uncle George was going to the toilet, and then he caught us outside. And this boyfriend of mine scaled the fence. He was gone. And I came inside. He said, my niece, come here. So he said, where's that boy? I said, oh, Uncle George, oh, he's gone home. But he was smart. He went home and he changed his sweater. So he came like with a different shirt, thinking Uncle George wouldn't recognize him. Because he didn't have kids, he didn't know what to say to him. So he said, come here, my boy. And he brought him inside and he's saying, you know, when you come here and you see my niece, come and sit inside. How are we going to sit inside in front of everybody? So anyway, he gave him a long speech as if the man's going to marry me. I was so cross. Anyway, that was that. Then another time he came to my house and he said, Rita, I want to use the phone. And Uncle George never swore. Never, ever. His biggest swear word was bloody. But seldom. Or bugger. He never swore often. No, he never swore in our company. Because he taught us not to swear. Anyway, he was retrenched from his work at the tailor. Yeah, he was retrenched. Neville and Pope, yeah. So he came to my place and he said, oh, can I use your telephone? And the way the house was situated, you could hear everyone, talk on the phone. So he was talking to this guy, and I could see he was really depressed. And then after he had the phone call, I said, what happened, Uncle George? He said, the bloody bastard. Oh, my God. I was so taken aback. And he said, I worked for them so bloody long, and this is what they do to me. He was totally disgusted. But as Michael said, he was such a neat, tidy. I can remember him putting his shoes like in a row and polishing them. I'd never ever seen the man in his undies or anything. He always was so respectful, And today, how you guys walk. He didn't. Okay, thank you everyone for attending.
Uncle Albert, We're going to go to another uncle that remained a bachelor and also lived with Vita and Eileen and them also. We're going to ask Rosie to tell us a bit about Uncle Albert's. Another handsome dude, eh? Uncle Albert.
Don't mess with Uncle Albert. He was best man for 3 of his brothers, and he looked tops. And you know, he had that very sharp French Barbeau nose, and he was